And I will start with this space, the very first office landscape that was built in 1959, 96 by two German management consultants. There's not architects involved in it. There are architects doing something about the isolation. It's in the top floor of a storage building. It was thought to be a temporary adaptation of this depot for books, and so the architects involved did the isolation a little bit and did the planning of the air conditioning and these things, but the actual layout and the actual plan and also the coloring and the design was done by management consultants and their team. And the team consisted of mathematicians, people from IT. There was one artist involved, and that's it. All men, of course, at that time. To get a dimension of this thing, because it's also like it's very gray and there is no scale to it somehow. Of course, you see that it's very chaotic and you can't understand the whole thing. But the dimension is it's a half a football field big. So you take a soccer field, divide it half of it's the interior of this thing, and a little bit higher than this, and the roof is by no means monochrome like it is here in this image. It's really, really brightly colorful, psychedelic, you could say. And this is a detail of this room where Reinhard Mohn, and the space was. When I say Reinhard Mohn, I don't know if you know Reinhard Mohn. He is the founder of Bertelsmann. Bertelsmann is nowadays one of the biggest media corporations in the world. They own RTL, for example, that certainly has its sub-channels also in Greek here. And at that time, right after the Second World War, in the late 1890s, his father founded a printing company. So he would print books. And after the war, he started to understand that he would need to do something because parts of Germany or Western Germany were bombed, and there was not an infrastructure for selling these books. So he would start to have. I have to now. So he started to have these buses to sell his books. At the same time, he stopped or tried to stop to produce books himself, but to get other printing companies or publishers to print books for him, and he would start only selling this. This was in 1955, and this got such a success because he then also could be very cheap in doing this, and then he started to have a club, a book club. I don't know if you are familiar with this concept that you become you get a membership, you pay in every 4 months or 3 months you pay a membership fee, and that allows you to get 3 books for free in these 3 months. And then you get a catalog that you can order and you send it there. So he got so big within a few years that he had to and in that sense or in that moment this space was came into play. So he would found this administration that would only administer the information that would come in and the mail order that needs to go out for the books. And at the time, this was is really kind of in every single household in Germany, you would find Bertelsmann books. You know? This is really, it changed the living room of the German. This little control room, you could say, changed the whole of German interiors with books like that. And then also they started to have Ariola, which is their record label, and they would have very, very popular things. And the interesting thing is that what he could do with this outsourcing is that he wouldn't have any storage space any longer for storing these books. He wouldn't have any risk that people wouldn't buy these books, and he would then have this thing. At the same time, what happens is that he, with the feedback that he is constantly getting, which is part of the cybernetic idea, he can adjust his assortment or his catalog and say, okay, I know that people, and I will predict that people will buy this book and not this book. So there's already something highly that we nowadays, when we speak about Amazon or Google and big data, I think it all started at that moment, actually. And the guys designing this room, these two management consultants, they started out to sell tables and chairs and these registries, it's called, I think, in English. Registraturen. The things that where you could hang. You have a hanging thing where you can order all your papers in it. Yeah, it's an archive-like thing, you know. And it was so they were but soon they started to consult offices how to organize their organization. And besides that, they also had a publishing house where they would. It's, I think, the most important publishing house for cybernetic literature. So people like, and then they never studied both of them, but they had lots of friends in the academic world. Max Spencer, for example, one of the most important cyberneticians in philosophy. He was professor at Stuttgart at that time. He was a very good friend of them and would come regularly to their house and to their office. With Max Spencer, you also, I don't know if you know the German story about architecture, but there is Ach Plus. Ach Plus is one of the most important magazines, and it comes out of Stuttgart, and its founding members were all cyberneticians, all basically went to the lectures of Max Spencer, and so and it's really kind of, this is it was, at least when I was studying, it was still the most important architecture magazine in Germany. So there is also a relation to it, but also Niklas Luhmann, you might know. Niklas Luhmann is one of the very important systems theory guy and a sociologist so and these people would be part of this wider influence field, you could say. And so they published all these books, but at the same time, what they did, they also published books about the office spaces that they did. Yeah, of course, this is also a promotional thing, and what they did is it was all, of course, all very technocratic, and the idea is to create an office space where information flow is seamless. So the more friction, the less frictions there are in an office space, the better, the faster information can flow, and the better this administration is working. And they're doing this by trying to attempt to achieve this by, I would call it pseudo-ethnographic fieldwork. They would go into an organization and have these sheets with them, and then they would count how many these sheets, or this sheet, for example, it's about. There are all the people that work in this one department, and then they it's the relationship. It shows the relationship between the people, but also, for example, how many phone calls one guy is doing in a day, and all this information is gathered and then kind of synthesized in these kind of diagrams, which is showing the information flow in the organization. And then a slide that I don't have here is that they would draw these diagrams where the traditional office spaces has some more levels, and then they would, for example, follow a letter that comes in, and then it comes to the guy at the entrance. Then it goes up in the second floor, goes its rounds, then goes up to the director's room, to the secretary, then to the director who is signing it, then it goes down again, and then they say, well, okay, this is frictions and frictions and frictions, and what we need to do, we need to have a horizontal space where everybody is placed on the same level, and also the director, and then they. It goes further that they then even say that this hierarchy, because there is also already there's knowledge in the lower levels of the hierarchy that the upper level doesn't know. So what we do, we put everybody not only physically on one level, but also address everybody to be on the same hierarchical level. So suddenly everybody becomes a specialist and needs to work in teams, which is and these teams, of course, need to work in specific with specific rules. They have to agree on consensually on a decision that they are doing, for example. And with that, of course, the people or these workers are also secured, or the decision process is also secured for the enterprise in a way. And finally, they come up with this layout, which is exactly, there are these little groups. For the mail order, it's like this, that you have, this is Bayern, for example, this is Württemberg, and then Sachsen-Anhalt. So the different parts of Germany are little groups that work together and are all on the same hierarchical level. And the information flow that goes through this space, so it's really kind of, I did turn it around because it's exactly the same thing. It comes in here. There is all the catalogs that are filled out are being processed here. Go back to this mail order thing, and then there's something else that I completely forgot when I told about this soccer field big space. There's one. This whole endeavor of these management consultants was, of course, to map all these things. The idea was always to start making decision processes calculable, in the sense that the goal was always to have a machine at the end to replace Mr. Aristide, or to replace Sophia or me. Because all these processes can be made calculable, and they, of course, decided then there are information processes that are very simple, that can be calculated, and then there is this other decision processes that are not trivial, that still need to be done by us. This is then also the specialists, of something. So there are machines all over this place. There's one big machinery here, but they also have machines down here and here. So it's also the machines that are spread out in the space. Also, also very important for the space itself, because these machines were not as silent as these machines nowadays. Even today, in summer, when the ventilator is starting to go like crazy because it's too hot, you get annoyed. But there, these machines were much louder, and the average noise level in the space was like this: that you would drive in a VW Beetle, built in 1950, 50 kilometers per hour. So this is still, I think, when you go in a I don't know, I don't want to name any, but in a small car that is built in the 70s, I guess that's still something, and go 50, 60 kilometers per hour, it's already quite noisy, So, and these automobiles were even louder, I think. So this is also something that is kind of part of this thing. But here again, there's a little, what I like about this drawing is as well, that it's a feedback loop that comes in. So there is something, if there's something not going well, it goes back. So this is the cybernetic idea also of this, with the feedback loop. I could talk about, they were the first to acknowledge that Pausenräume, spaces for recreation within the office, are very, very important, because there and in the corner where the copy machine stands, communication actually happens. So this is something that they found out. So they built huge break spaces that people could meet but work. Yeah. So there's already the merging of work and recreation, or work and having a break merged in that moment already then. And this is a drawing by a German cybernetician whose name I forgot because I didn't write it down here. And he would draw the old traditional way of how democracy works, with the parliament, the representation of the people that represent the population here in the middle, and this is the law that is being done, and in a cybernetic way. He's doing this, and there is always the Zählung, the vote, and this is these are the single subjects that are able to vote. And he had the idea that this middle thing, this parliament, needs to be, we don't need it any longer, because we have these machines and we know how to count. So we get rid of that, and we have only the counting. And this is, so it's direct democracy, I think it's called today, with some parties, that you can, or like with Facebook, the like button, that is already there. And I think that this space of the office landscape resembles some of these aspects. I would say it is a really, even though they were kind of really ambitious people and also very politically engaged, and they wanted to, and also I think that they gained a certain amount of betterment in office places. It is still this. It's a very depoliticized space that is being produced. Patrick Schumacher, Zaha Hadid's partner, wrote also about the office space, and he only saw the chaotic. He only saw the chaos in there, and he would think that this space is an anarchic space that would be able to turn it as himself around, but he only sees so in that sense it's also a very effectful design, but because he doesn't see how strong and how dense the control mechanisms work in this space. But maybe back to this little slide, there is also something that is still interesting that I come back to it later, that this border of the space is still very, very important. There is still an inside and an outside in this space. And even though the outside, the mail order business itself, how books are being produced and people are able to do this, get these books, is works in the similar way like this, but it's still the architecture itself has a border, still has a facade in that sense.